Most people don't understand how deep the ocean really is. Imagine you walk off the coast into the water. At 10 meters, or 33 feet deep, you're already experiencing an entire additional atmosphere of pressure. At 214 meters, you're passing the verified record for a human diver with no equipment. At 830, you're the depth of the tallest building on Earth. And at 1,000 meters down, no light from the surface is getting to you anymore. And you're only about a tenth of the way down. 1,220 meters, and you're in the territory of the deepest military submarines that we know about. At 3,800 meters, you hit the Titanic, and just above it is where the infamous OceanGate submersible imploded. The deepest recorded natural point is 10,984 meters deep, or 6.8 miles. You might have heard of this point. This is Challenger Deep. If you put Mount Everest into the water upside down, there would still be over a mile until you got to the bottom. The ocean is just amazing, but the thing is, we haven't mapped it very well.
And finally tonight, we'd like to show you some of the 100 or so new species scientists believe they discovered amid the underwater mountains off the coast of Chile. They were found using an underwater robot capable of diving more than 14,000 feet. More than just enriching scientists' understanding of ocean life, researchers say it demonstrates how the Chilean government's ocean protections are bolstering biodiversity and providing a model for other countries. This unknown species of sea toad looks like something Dr. Seuss might have created. It was found under more than 4,500 feet of water. Behold the beady-eyed gaze of a squat lobster resting in coral about 2,200 feet below the surface. Just before this member of a rarely seen family of whiplash squid had its picture snapped, it squirted ink, perhaps a reaction to seeing an alien-looking object alongside it more than 3,600 feet down. Among the other species, researchers found glass sponges, deep sea corals, and urchins. Scientists say identifying them all could take years. With about 70% of the Earth's surface covered by oceans and only a fraction of it having been explored, who knows how many more unknown and unusual creatures have yet to be discovered.
Horses see almost 360 degrees around them and have great night vision, but their eyes have some strange disadvantages compared to ours. I'll break down how horses see the world, and later we'll dive into the weird thing horses' eyes have in common with ostrich eyes: peripheral vision. Like lots of prey animals, their eyes are on the sides of their head instead of the front. This lets them see almost 360 degrees around them. Each eye can move around independently, seeing something completely different. When their heads are down grazing, they can still see all around them to spot any predators approaching. This panoramic vision has one flaw though. They have blind spots directly in front and behind them. So you could hide from a horse if you were right in front of them, but just turning their head a little back and forth helps them get around that blind spot. Horses can see about 50% better than us in the dark, but it takes horses a lot longer to adjust between going from a bright light environment and low light, especially as they get older. An older horse may need as long as 40 minutes to adjust to seeing well in a dark barn after being outside on a sunny day. Our eyes switch from seeing well in the light to the dark pretty quickly because of how fast our pupils can dilate or constrict. Horses don't see the same colors as us. They only have 2 types of cones, or color detecting cells, unlike humans who have 3. They only see shades of blue and green, which is just like how dogs and people with a kind of color blindness called protanopia see the world. So horses may struggle to see red objects, letting them detect motion super well, even if their vision is a little blurrier with more muted colors. This is really helpful for spotting potential predators running towards them, but they're not very good at spotting things that aren't moving. All right, what in the world do horse eyes have in common with ostrich eyes though? They're tied for having the biggest eyes out of any land-based animal, with eyes that are about 2 inches in diameter. That's about as big as a billiard ball.
Look at that. Relax. How are you feeling, Jos? Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I like the way he's looking at his watch. You have got to do it tonight, I'm afraid. Whenever you're ready. Nice and quiet. Wants the horse quite rightly. Nice, quiet, relaxed, supple, ready to go. Jos Verlooy, Sunshine. Yes! Jos Verlooy, Sunshine, he's over.
6'11" and Jos Verlooy and Sunshine. My pick is clear. My pick is clear.
Look at this. Oh, you star. You star.
That was easy. Like Sunday.
Whoa!
One thing about the cheetah you must always put in mind if you come across a cheetah in the wild. A cheetah will only attack you if you run. Yeah. But if I go like this, it will never attack me.
Yeah, okay. See that?
But if I try to run, they will come to me. Huh?
Stop. Toch weer beesten.
Yeah, oh, the last one is there. Okay.
Kom maar.
On the border between France and Switzerland is the biggest science experiment ever built. It's this huge tunnel, over 100 meters underground and 27 kilometers long. And inside that tunnel, scientists put a long blue tube, and inside that tube they put two pipes that they keep colder and emptier than outer space. And down those pipes, they fire particles smaller than atoms in opposite directions, pushing them faster and faster and faster until, when they're almost at the speed of light, they smash together. But my question was, how did they get them to actually hit each other? It's like shooting grains of salt at each other from insanely far away. Seriously, think about this. How would you do that? If you just thought, fire tons of salt, that's exactly what they do. They don't just fire 100 or 1,000 protons at each other. They fire 100 billion. And when they do that, 100 billion versus 100 billion, guess how many actually collide? 60. 6-0. Which is why they do the whole thing over and over and over again, 30 million times per second. It's just so cool that we can do this. If you like optimistic science and tech stories, follow for more.
This is the heat-seeking missile, and inside this cover is the optical guidance system. The heat source from this aircraft travels through a set of lenses into the reticle, which spins on its axis. These infrared signatures are converted into audible tones like this sound here. All said and done, the pilot releases the missile, which uses a solid fuel rocket as the motor to chase the infrared heat source. The servo section controls the four canards to guide this AIM-9 Sidewinder towards the target. The AIM-9 is one of the oldest, least expensive, and most successful air-to-air missiles, with an estimated 270 kills worldwide to date. The first successful kill recorded in combat by a heat-seeking missile was an AIM-9 Sidewinder on September 24, 1958. This occurred during the Chinese Civil War when a Taiwanese F-86 Sabre shot down a communist Chinese MiG-15 using AIM-9B supplied by the US Navy. As stated, this heat-seeking missile is being upgraded to the AIM-9X for decades to come. As you can see, it looks a bit smaller compared to the older AIM-9 versions. When placed side by side, you can see that the back of the AIM-9X has a thrust vectoring system, while the older version has a fixed nozzle. The AIM-9X missile has fins that can pivot independently, whereas the older version has roller runs to maintain stability. Despite this, its performance far exceeds that of the legacy Sidewinder. It has a solid propellant rocket motor with a length of 9.9 feet, which translates to around 3 meters, and a launch weight of 186 pounds or 84.3 kilograms. Its range and speed are still classified, but it is assumed to have a range of 35 kilometers, translating to around 21 miles with an astonishing speed of Mach 2.5. Let's take a simplified version of how this works. Step 1. In this older version, the pilot needs to chase the target and can release the missile only after hearing the sound peak at a maximum, just like this audio here. Step 2. The missile will initiate the solid rocket motor to launch towards its target. Step 3. Remember the rollerons on the tail, which are metal wheels with notches cut into them. As the missile speeds through the air, the wind current spins the rollerons like pinwheels. These rollerons on the rear wings help stabilize the missile in flight, acting as gyroscopes to counter the spinning forces. Step 4. As stated, the servo pumps and pistons work their magic and move the canards to compensate for the target's evasion from the center. Step 5. The missile is designed to overcompensate for the movement to where the target is vectored instead of chasing the aircraft. Step 6. When it reaches the target, the proximity fuse triggers the 9.36 kilogram or 20-pound annular blast fragmentation warhead. This explosive force propels the metal fragments outward in all directions in an annular or ring-shaped pattern, destroying any aircraft when it is launched against it. However, sometimes it could lock onto the sun or another heat source instead of an enemy airplane, such as a plane deploying flares. Later on, the AIM-9X began using infrared cameras to take pictures of where the seeker head is looking and again, use computer algorithms to find their target. The difference is that IIR seekers can recognize the shape of an aircraft and compare it against a database, using that information to improve their ability to track the target. Once locked, it can avoid flares and hit its target successfully.
You advise leaders all over the world. In fact, there's a famous quote by Colin Powell where he said, "Tell me what you know, tell me what you don't know, and tell me what you think." How do you think about how you give advice to leaders through that analytical framework?
It's both a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because if you are able to give good advice, you're able to shape the world, or shape your country, or shape your region. And it's a curse because if you give the wrong advice, then you actually are the reason for things not going the way that they should be going.
Read up to 52 books per year. What is it you're learning right now?
I try to read a book a week. Again, I'm not always successful, but I try to make up the time.
What kind of book?
I just read nonfiction. Because of my circles, my networks, it's very difficult to have conversations on fiction books. And what I like to do with the information, so if I just read a book and I want to store the information, I actually go and find someone to speak to about the book. So you attended my gatherings that I do in the desert. The reason why I have this gathering, the primary reason is for me to register the information of the books I'm reading. Because I would go there and have a conversation with someone and try to actually distill what I learned from the book. So then my recall becomes faster, it gets stored in my memory much better. And at the same time, I'm able to learn from that person because they're able to give me their inputs, right? So it's about the quality of the people and the quality of the books. But one principle that I live on, and I actually am hoping to write a book on this one day. So I once came across this piece of information. If you spend a good quality hour learning something, within 6 months, you're going to become one of the best people in the world in this specific skill or the specific piece of knowledge. And you won't be the top 0.1%, but you'll be within the top 1% of the world. And I said to myself, if that is the case, how many things can I master in my lifetime? So I broke down my life in 6-month sprints and said, what is the total number of things that I can learn? So let's assume, hypothetically, I was 25 at the time, and I assumed that I'm going to live until I was 85, right? So that's 60 years. If you break that down in 6 months, that's 120 sprints. I can only learn 120 things in my life. And if you actually look at it that way, there's not much time, and there are so many things to learn. There are so many things to learn in life, and there's so little time. So what I do as well is I try to break down my life into these sprints, and I'll be able to build this sense of interest where I'm always interested in something else. There's a funny inside joke in the office. This is when we were junior employees. people used to call me the expert. And they meant it in a condescending way because they were like, every few months he comes to us and he's an expert on saffron, and he's an expert on coffee. And they thought that I was a know-it-all. But when push came to shove, they were like, okay, this guy actually knows his stuff. And why they were able to see that was because they saw it in action. Like, you know, I could critique something, but then actually go back to the fundamentals of it.
I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't mess around, I don't party, I don't go out. Am I lame for that? Absolutely. And to be lame in the eyes of somebody I would never want to be like is nothing but an absolute success in my eyes. You see, it's only an uncertain person that needs company in what they do to feel like it's the right thing. But real confidence stems from doing what's best for you, even if that means doing it alone. My confidence comes from consistently pushing myself and leaving no gap between what needs to be done and what I do. And look who's out here with me. Nobody. And that's just fine.
Well, hey there, miss. You mind if I give it a shot? Would that be all right?
Sure, if you want.
Well, all right then. Golly, I seen one of these on the television back in Arkansas. How does this thing work? Press the buttons like this?
Yeah, like that.
Excuse me, miss. Mind if I try something? Would that be all right with you?
I mean, if you play better than I am.
Well, all right, I'll give it a shot. How's this thing work?
That's exactly how I
Hey, mind if I give it a shot? Yeah, I just got off my shift on the highway constructions.
I believe that stress is the major source of our illness.
Really?
Over and above diet, genetics, even treatment. It's a very big statement. And that stress, though, is psychological, right? Events don't cause stress. What causes stress are the views you take of the event. So if you open it up and you're more mindful, and if you set to yourself, rather than this thing is going to be awful, give yourself 5 reasons why it might actually be an advantage. But I say go the next step. Let's assume it does happen. What are the advantages? And so then when you say, you know, you'll be able to deal with whatever happens, then you're less worried about them.
One of the problems is people become so materialistic, so captivated in the biggest houses, cars, income. Look there on the left, the credit card actually becomes the guillotine, and on the right, how unhappy the guy is who's number 1, and the guy at number 3 is really happy. He probably enjoyed the process instead of just focusing totally on what society says is success. So let's read from the top down. There at the top, healing begins when self-pity ends. Below that, there is no exercise better for the heart than reaching down and lifting people up. I think one of the big problems is selfishness. People become so consumed with self that they don't realize one of the greatest sources of happiness is serving people. As the Bible says, it's more blessed to give than receive.
Stress, though, is psychological, right? Events don't cause stress. What causes stress are the views you take of the event. So if you open it up and you're more mindful, And if you said to yourself, rather than this thing is going to be awful, give yourself 5 reasons why it might actually be an advantage.
Being an expert on general automotive knowledge, can you tell me what would the correct ignition timing be on a 1955 Bel Air Chevrolet with a 327 cubic inch engine and a 4-barrel carburetor?
It's impossible to answer.
Impossible because you don't know the answer.
Nobody could answer that question.
Your Honor, I move to disqualify Ms. Vito as an expert witness.
Can you answer the question?
No, it is a trick question.
Why is it a trick question?
Because Chevy didn't make a 327 in 55. The 327 didn't come out till 62. And it wasn't offered in the Bel Air with a 4-barrel carb till 64. However, in 1964, the correct ignition timing would be 4 degrees before top dead center.
Well, she's acceptable, Your Honor.
Thank you so much. Any requests?
Do you know river flows in you?
Let's see. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Wow.
Any requests?
Play something slow and emotional.
Slow and emotional? Okay. There's basically 3 things that you should stop doing immediately if you want to be happier. Number 1, you have to stop regretting the past. There's nothing you can do about it. Don't forget the past. You can learn from it and get better from it so you don't make the same mistakes, but you got to stop regretting the past. Number 2 is stop worrying about the future. Psychologists have found that 85% of what you worry about on a daily basis will never happen. That's a waste of your energy, that's a waste of your time. And then number 3, stop looking for your happiness in other people. Other people cannot make you happy. It is absolutely impossible.
If you live off a man's compliments, you'll die from his criticism. Great source of unhappiness, living for man's praise rather than God's praise. Rather follow your passion. Rather follow what you love and you're excited about, irrelevant of what people say. And remember how irrelevant criticism is there on the left. Even at your best, someone will have something negative to say. Pursue greatness anyway. Even at your best, there'll be people that say negative stuff. So forget about what people say. On the right, another person will not hurt you without your cooperation. You're hurt the moment you believe yourself to be. If negative words could kill, the skunk would be extinct.
This drone can keep up with an F1 car, but let's put it to the test.
The world famous Tower Bridge in the heart of London. And we're about to fly right through it!
Straight climb, straight climb.
We just have a small gap to aim for before the next critical part, the landing. So let's do it! See ya!
Jumpers away, jumpers away.
Okay, approach looks good. Bang it. Go to the bridge. 3, 2, 1, and accelerate. Going down, going down.
The importance of perspective. Look at this guy. He's sitting in water. He just has to get up, but he's absolutely terrified. Often problems can become like this. People lose perspective about their problems. They're actually very blessed. They got enough to eat, enough clothes, they're healthy, their family's healthy. But yet they let problems become way bigger than they actually should be. Look at this guy going through, it seems like some worldly problems, and the reporter asks him about how he's handling it, and look at his brilliant view on having perspective about what you're going through.
Is there something you're doing over the last 48 hours to keep yourself away from just being consumed with this? Are you watching different movies?
Honestly, I met 3 girls under the age of 21 with terminal cancer. And I thought I was helping them by talking to them, and they were helping me. And so having an understanding about what life is really all about, and watching a girl dying and smiling and enjoying her life, that's what it's really all about, and having that faith. You know, the other thing is you always hear people, give glory to God and say thank you when they're holding a trophy. But you never really hear it in times like this. And so for me, it's an opportunity to just sit right where I'm at and just be faithful. That's what it's about.
And then here from C.S. Lewis, don't let your happiness depend on something you may lose. You need to find your happiness in Christ. Fascinating 3 quotes here at the top. The root of suffering is attachment, and then bottom left, perception creates reality. And then at the right bottom, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Your perception and your attachment to worldly things will make you suffer. Be attached to the things of God.
Is there something you're doing over the last 48 hours to keep yourself away from just being consumed with this?
Honestly, I met 3 girls under the age of 21 with terminal cancer. And I thought I was helping them by talking to them, and they were helping me. And so having an understanding about what life is really all about, and watching a girl dying and smiling and enjoying her life, that's what it's really all about, and having that faith. You know, the other thing is you always hear people, give glory to God and say thank you when they're holding a trophy. But you never really hear it in times like this. And so for me, it's an opportunity to just sit right where I'm at and just be faithful. That's what it's about.